Episode 106, Coffee with John and Keith Freeman.
Today is gonna be a little something more. I've got a plan in mind, a special thing in store. The light bulb inside my head says, get out and play, 'cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day.
Well, welcome friends to Coffee with John. If you're a professional or family caregiver, healthcare technology innovator, academic researcher, or social worker, I hope you find these podcasts informative and inspiring. Right now, the caregiving industry is having problems meeting the demand for care. There are not enough caregivers or people going into the field of caregiving, which pushes up the wages for the entire industry. Well, caregivers are also expected to know a unique combination of specialized skills to get the job done. Similar to nursing, caregivers are required to complete continued education and are expected to work difficult hours. As a result, caregivers are moving into different industries and choosing different career paths. Well, if you own or operate an assisted living facility or home health care organization who understands that caregiving is a tough job and requires a compassionate person with a good heart, then stay tuned. But first, a good word for caregivers.
God cares for caregivers. Remember, He's one too. There's a song that comes to my mind periodically throughout life. Just about every other week or so, it says, "Through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God." Through it all. You know, there's a lot of all that we go through, isn't it? A-double-L. I tell you, sometimes it's big, bold, black letters that are capitalized and bigger than that. All those things we have to go through. But the key to it is through, not into, never to come out of it, but through it. And when you do that, you find that you can trust in the Lord Jesus Christ and God the Father to make it so. Look, you can have what Psalm 16, 8 and 9 says. I have set the Lord always before me, because He's at my right hand. I will not be shaken. Therefore my heart is glad and my tongue rejoices. My body shall also rest secure, because He will not abandon me. Hey, that's true. He's going to be with you through it all. He promises never to leave you, never to forsake you, and He's good for His promise. He's the God who is the same yesterday, today, and forever, meaning that when He was there with you in the good times, He's with you now when it maybe isn't so good. Maybe it's really hard. Maybe you are really feeling the pressure and the stress of it all. And He understands, He knows, but He's with you. And He's going to make it so that you can come through victoriously, through it all, as you learn to trust in Him. Remember, God cares for caregivers. He's one of them.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for being a part of Coffee with John, Caregiver Success. Today, it's my pleasure to have with me Keith Freeman. Keith has been in the industry for over 20 years and has a lot of insights about how healthcare providers can really improve their operations and make sure that their caregivers are providing the best care that they can. Keith, thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, John, for having me. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Well, Keith, why don't you do this? Why don't you give just a little bit of a background of who you serve? You know, if you could have one person listen to this episode, who would that be?
Well, I work with healthcare organizations that have a service-based patient care outcome. So I work with a lot of owners of home health, home care, administrators. So that could be at the hospital level, assisted living, community-based care type models.
And how does Sixth Sense help these healthcare operators?
So the main way that we help these healthcare operators is helping to find hidden deficiencies. So examples of that could be with the hiring and workforce planning, the training and the development, with technology applications to support functions and really the use of those technologies, and finding ways in order to be able to create strategies that serve both the short term and the long term.
And do you help to, when hiring caregivers, do you help those providers make sure that they are having quality metrics and quality assurance so that regardless of which healthcare provider goes out and serves the client, that they can be consistent in the quality that they're delivering?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's vital in order to be able to do that. Having those types of programs in place and making sure that it starts with the end in mind, as far as from a customer service standpoint, and the quality of the level of not only the caregiver that's being hired or the nurse that's being hired, but also the development and the support programs around that to provide the support for those in the field.
Now, there's a lot of challenges that I think healthcare providers get when it comes to hiring the right kind of people. What are some specific challenges that you see, and what are some ways that providers can kind of make sure that they are hiring the right kind of providers?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, each area has its own unique challenge. Hospice, for example, faces if it's end of life care management, for example, that they have an unpredictable model where somebody has symptoms out of control, for example, and then how do you do the appropriate workforce planning to have a pool of those caregivers that are both nursing and non-medical to be able to support those needs that can be unpredictable and sporadic. The other side of it too is that we have a shortage. We have a shortage of caregivers. We have a shortage of nurses, and that shortage is only going to become worse over time and become more acute. So that having the strategies in place in order to be able to consistently be attracting and bringing in quality employees, both on the support function, the back end function, the operational side, as well as the field side.
What are some things that you do to really help companies and help caregivers compete in the hiring space?
One of those things is being able to position, the organization wants to position itself as an employer of choice. And partially in order to be able to do that, you have to understand where it is that you are now in order to know where it is that you're going. Things move so quickly, and there's especially unique challenges to, with the caregiver shortage. If, for example, being able to have livable wages, especially in higher income areas, and that the type of caregiver that is being brought in. For example, if there's a single income earner, for example, and working multiple jobs with multiple agencies, that brings unique challenges. But looking at the right data is really important, and that could be an example from the hiring velocity of the organization to its policies and practices with bringing people in, to the training and development programs for those individuals to focus on retention. There's organizations out there, for example, that have unique abilities to be able to just to take a step back, that have taken a very specific look at the data, and they've been able to better qualify individuals on the front end to make sure that they're getting the right type of individuals that are going to stay within the organization for longer.
And what are some things that they can look for in the data to really make those types of predictive, high quality predictive indicators that this is a caregiver, an employee that's going to be around for the long term?
That's a really great question. Some of that has to do with past behavior. Some of that has to do with the short-term and long-term goals of the caregiver. But this is a very still fragmented industry in a lot of ways where, if some of the challenges that caregivers have provided as far as feedback is being able to have consistency and continuity. So, for example, somebody who's earning between $12, $15, $16 an hour, and if they're out of work for a couple of weeks, that's extremely difficult. Having programs that can bridge that continuity, for example, and then going back to the original question of the factors, making sure that we like to focus on values-based hiring. So, for example, do the values of the caregiver align with the organization? It's funny, sometimes you have a conversation with somebody and they'll say, well, I'm not even going to bother unless you're paying, $18 or $19 an hour. And that's how they're starting out the conversation in the relationship. And then there's others that, really truly want specific things that organization is able to provide over time, and which makes it a really great marriage.
Well, one of the questions I
Correct.
like to ask people is, how did you get started in this industry? At what point did you look at the healthcare in general and caregiving these types of problems? What's sort of the path that you took to get here?
So some of it was fairly organic. I was a turnaround specialist for a staffing company that was focused in healthcare. And that was mainly focused in hospitals, but there was always a home care, home health component to it. And then I migrated into operating as more of that with smaller organizations that were looking to develop these types of markets, and to take some of the more structure, from the corporate side for these smaller based businesses, to be able to have that consistent quality patient care outcome in the home. And hospitals are seeing this today, for example, where the hospital's at home and they're even buying up the home care verticals. Most of there's a huge market out there for providing care in the home. There's a huge burden on the healthcare system today, just with the cost of healthcare overall. So with myself, it was working within very large organizations and working on these, multi-million-dollar contracts with the hospitals, and kind of migrating to more of the very, very high touch home care, home health side. But also that company's big challenge today, and I think this is one of your areas of expertise, is finding the right blend between high tech and high touch to mitigate the costs, but also to provide superior quality and service from the healthcare.
And I think you're right. We don't want just, gadgets and gizmos that get in the way of quality. We want gadgets, and we want technology to be used appropriately. What are some things that you can help, or that you do to help your clients to evaluate technologies and make sure that they really are familiar with them and they're using these tools appropriately?
Yeah, a lot of it starts with the client-centric model, right? So you have the patient and a patient-centric model, and that could be, how is it that the organization can help that family to be able to provide the best quality care for their loved one, and that may depend on a unique challenge. It could be Alzheimer's, and there's technology to be able to prevent wandering. There's technology to be able to improve interaction, that are technology applications that could have remote monitoring, for example, and that's not just with vital signs, but actual visual as well. From the application of, from a safety standpoint, as well, certain things to be thinking about from a monitoring standpoint, to make sure that there's a lot of scams out there, for example, and how are we going to be able to protect the senior against some of these scams. So a lot of it starts with, is the organization have the quality assurance programs in place in order to be able to be collecting ongoing feedback with how things are going with the client, and identifying those problems where technology could really help enhance the quality of care being provided to the patient. I mean, it could be something involving medication management, for example, and having a timed distribution of release of medications. There's a number of different products on the market today, but how that caregiver is making sure that those are being implemented in the home is really important.
Yeah, one of the things that we do for the company that I'm the customer success director for is about merging clinical data and non-clinical data to get together. And I think that's kind of what you're saying is there's lots of data streams that we can get. How do we help these providers to really use and be able to make proper business and health decisions based on all of these different data streams, whether it's clinical data that's come in or non-clinical kind of situational awareness type data that might be coming in.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of there's an overwhelming amount of information that exists today. But two, if we're going to collect information, what purpose is it going to be used for, and what problem is it going to solve by expending the time and energy and expense to be able to collect that? I mean, it could be something as simple as somebody with Alzheimer's having magnets in their clothes, opposed to so they can have a sense of self-sufficiency. So if they're struggling with buttons and fasteners, and it can be something a little bit more complex with some of the emergency response systems that are available that detect biometrics.
As you kind of look out over the industry and working with these different clients, what are some things that sort of keep you up at night? And you can answer this in one or of two ways, and that is, what keeps you up at night that you're really kind of concerned with, and you're saying, wow, if we don't get a handle on this, there's going to be some bad consequences. Or, what keeps you up in the sense of, man, this is really exciting stuff. We're right on the cusp of breakthroughs. So what are a couple of things that kind of keep you up at night?
So two areas. One is that we have a pending caregiver shortage. I mean, even if it is that the federal government today said, hey, we're going to pay for everybody's care, there's still would only be able to support maybe 50% of the care need that's out there. There's the seniors that very much need the care. They're isolated. They don't necessarily get the support it is that they need, and affordability is an issue. Some of the things that are really exciting that are coming down the pipeline, I think, are some of the tools and technology that's out there that's constantly this constant innovation. CMS is supposed to, in the next couple of years, coming up with a program to be able to help supplement the cost of care, because they've seen that even with the non-medical side, for example, there's huge improvements that can be had for the quality of life that somebody's experiencing. So I think that from an innovation standpoint, I mean, it's going to be really exciting to see. You have companies like Amazon that are getting involved with Alexa and just some of the great technology minds and thinking that are coming up with all this stuff. I think it's going to be excellent. That the challenge is going to be being able to make sense of all of it, be able to use it in such a way that it really goes back to that patient-centric model of solving the problems the unique problems that we need to solve.
I was just talking to, I think it's Lyft, and they actually have a pretty strong healthcare initiative as well. So again, these companies that you don't really think of as being healthcare companies, but they are technology innovators, and they're seeing some huge opportunities that are available for them. So I'm with you where there is so much excitement in terms of what technology innovators are doing in this space.
Exactly.
Well, Keith, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for helping us understand some of the ways that people can really develop those sixth sense of awareness regarding quality assurance and helping to improve a patient-centric outcome to their clients.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, John. Very much appreciate being able to talk with you about this today.
All right. Thanks for being on Coffee with John. After the interviews, I always keep my recorder running because you never know what's going to happen after the interview, and that's exactly what happened with Keith, we continue the conversation and transition to some of the challenges that individuals face when they are considering private healthcare providers versus an agency-provided healthcare providers. So I think that you'll enjoy this extended interview. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you think would be really valuable to this audience?
There's a lot of topics to cover. I mean, going back to the families, I think, with the cost and how do they navigate having the long-term care expense, because not all families have, the means, whether it's through a long-term care policy or not. And I think that they navigate to the private market in order to be able to do that, and that can have some specific challenges as well. But I think that there's a market that's out there for families that are in that space, but really need the help in order to be able to make sense of the unique problems that a loved one is facing. And that's maybe where either agency or, another company can step in and work with those families from a compliance standpoint.
And when you're saying these kind of families with private, are you saying someone that doesn't have long-term care, or what would that family look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen probably maybe about those that choose to use higher care through an agency. At some point, a large percentage of those, like 40+%, will look to hire somebody on the private side, like because of the cost. I mean, they might be paying the agency $25, $30 an hour, and they're like, oh, I can, pay this person directly. But there's still an, they need help. I think navigate, whether it's using I think Care.com has like a payroll company in order to be able to help make sure people are getting their taxes paid appropriately. But I think it's much more than that. I mean, I see agencies themselves having a real struggle being able to make sure that they're having the proper oversight for caregivers. And I think that that's even more difficult for the families, even though, some of them are more involved than others. But, if you have a private caregiver that's there, how are they reporting? What are they accountable to? How are they getting continuing education? So, maybe it's, for another conversation down the road, to have and what aspects of, what technology applications are out there, what type of solutions might be available for families to be able to help to start to solve some of those problems.
So looking at it sort of from two ways. So the first perspective is from a family member that's maybe evaluating between hiring an agency or directly hiring a caregiver. What would be some things that you would say, okay, here's some things you need to be looking for in order to make the right decision? Because I think, it can be so much a cost decision. Hey, it's cheaper for me to go hire this person directly, but what would be some things that you would say, kids, spouse, whatever it is, here are some things you need to look at so that you're really getting an apples to apples comparison between hiring someone directly and going through a caregiving agency? What would those things be?
Yeah, there's a few. So the American Board of Home Care is, I don't know if you're familiar with them or not.
I'm not. Tell me who they are.
So American Board of Home Care, they are a certified agency that basically has a process of membership, right? So that there's certain agencies that have to meet certain criteria to qualify to be on their list. And a lot of hospitals now are using that as a standard to when they have to refer to families. So the American Board of Home Care actually has a really good checklist of, what the employer versus the registry versus the private hire model is. Mm-hmm. But just look at the numbers for a minute. So we have a certain standard, and the agencies need to have a certain standard with who they're going to hire. And the state has now created a regulation, and the state requires licensure. So all the agencies have to go through that process, and they have to adhere to that standard. And they have no purview over the registry or private caregivers. Now, when you look at the data itself, so of, say, 500 applicants that come in, 5% of those that might be, what we were calling, 25, right? There's a lot of applicants that, for whatever reason, are not being hired.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that has to do with not meeting certain criteria, and that could be from the type of experience it is that they have to other types of evaluations or tests that they had to go through in order to be able to meet that standard. So that there's a potential, not that there's not great caregivers out there that are on the private side. It's just, how does the family go about evaluating that? Are they doing the, FBI and DOJ checks for the individual? Are they making sure that the individual has the appropriate physical and TB tests and all the other requirements that might, if they go into the home, are they covered for workers' comp? Are they ensuring that the appropriate taxes are being covered? Not only is it just from the quality of the hire, and then how to go through that screening process, because even agencies have difficulty finding a structured process that works and make sure that they stick to that process, let alone a family. And a lot of times families want to be involved, right? So they'll say to the agency, well, I want to interview the person.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is they're interviewing a person that's already gone through all of this, 50 check process. When it is that they're meeting with that person, if they're meeting with somebody from another entity or referred over by a friend, a lot of times they're doing the same thing, which is they're just looking for amiability. Do I feel comfortable with this person, and do I get along with this person?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the family member, they're making a decision on, do I like this person? Do I want this person taking care of my loved one? But they really don't have any real insight into, is this person, objectively qualified compared to the other person, because they're not asking those types of compliance questions. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, we have a checklist that we've developed, and we always, when I have a template for something, I always encourage for organizations to have something of their own or to make it their own. And an example is the caregiver goes through this 3-page, self-assessment, and then the nurse goes through and goes, okay, so this is how you're self-assessing yourself, and they'll ask for demonstration. They'll say, okay, so walk me through and demonstrate to me how you would do X. And they'll even role play with the individual with certain scenarios with Alzheimer's. So someone's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm an expert with Alzheimer's care. And then there's a lot of people that I see that evaluate themselves very high, but they haven't necessarily received any formal training. And when they're put through a structured process, what's discovered in that process is that they don't really have the skills that it would take in order to handle the various situations that they run into. And if it's with the individual family, a lot of times the level of the quality of care isn't necessarily being discovered, where someone's going, oh, okay, this is good quality care, this is really subpar.
Now, when you kind of have your consulting hat on, do the agencies, do they see themselves as competing with the private caregiver market? Is that do they see that as a competitive threat to them? And if so, how do they kind of position themselves?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, most agencies are going to say we're not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And they're focused on a certain segment of the market, and that segment of the market is the people that can afford their care. And if they can't afford the care and they have to go to the private market because of affordability, a lot of times they'll say, well, they aren't within our niche.
Right.
So the agencies serve a specific segment. Now, I think that the agencies serve um, those that may not be able to afford the care from them long term, but they serve them for a short time, for a short term. Sometimes that's because there's been some diminished capacity or fall, or something that they have to get over to be able to provide to get the support that they need to bridge the gap.
Got it. Got it. So in those cases, the loved one is likely to recover, and then we don't need the services of the agency any longer.
Yeah, they're likely to recover. They don't need the services of the agency any longer, or that they're not really going to recover. But long term, what they need to do is the family needs a stopgap, and then they a lot of times they approach the caregiver that works for the agency to come work for them privately. And there's enough assurances in place where the caregivers are. It's very rare I've actually seen it happen. They usually don't get hired by the agency, but the family pursues that line and finds somebody privately eventually
Got
to
it.
provide the support.
Got it. Do you think that there are some things that the industry can do to kind of help the family to ask better questions and do a better evaluation? Do you think that that's something that is an opportunity worth pursuing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very fractured. Yes, in answer to your question, yes, I think so. I think that there's a huge market that's there to be able to help families navigate the process of providing care for a loved one, and that the agencies have, no pun intended, agency problem. I mean, they serve a particular market, and the organizations like the ABHC, I think, are great because they're helping families and the Joint Commission as well. There's very few probably home care agencies that are actually like Joint Commission accredited unless they're actually doing like the skilled side as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the hospitals are requiring them to have that in order to do business. But yeah, I think the families, like anything else, it's they want to be able to save costs long term, and how they go about the behavioral economics of how they make decisions a lot of times can be cost driven opposed to quality driven.
Right.
But if they have something that can help them serve both, I think that there's a market there.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I don't think people are like mean and just, I want to be a cheapskate. I think that there is a true education gap that they don't know what to look for, and they don't know how to evaluate those things effectively.
Yeah, I think when you I don't know if are you guys in the business of developing technology, or are you in the business of acquiring, taking technology, white labeling it, or do you do a lot of stuff in-house, or is it you're kind of brokering technology that exists, or both?
Yeah, I would say both. So at our fundamental, we are a services and software company at our fundamental. So I'll answer the question in a couple of different ways. If you look at some of our core products and the history of our founder, a lot of that history has been looking at consumer products and saying, okay, how can we take these consumer products and specialize them for specific niches or enterprise? So if you look at our wandering solution, right? If you look at our watch, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a watch and it's an iOS application. It's not rocket science what we're doing. But what we are doing that's pretty unique is, unlike, an iWatch and stuff, which is sort of very general in purpose, we are very specifically taking a very specific use case and making sure that the solution is to a specific use case, and that's where we kind of create value in our product. So that's kind of our DNA of how we've launched products and other things, and really how we're launching this as well. With that said, we do have technology partners where we're starting to white label So we have, I'll just say some biometric people where we are white labeling their biometric instrumentation, and they're essentially using our technology to move that data. So that is very much a part of our business. So it's kind of a both.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's definitely the marriage of that and the high touch side. I think is definitely the future. I know that there's companies like for example with Home Instead. I mean, they've owned the vertical of a pharmacy. They own different verticals. They're I think acquiring technology and technology companies. I think that there's the larger companies are looking at innovative ways in order to be able to have an edge at delivering the care and the high touch piece and component.
Yeah. I think that is definitely still kind of where the opportunity is. How do we create a high touch and do that in a cost effective way? Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me. I may actually, in fact, I probably will put part of this conversation in the interview as well, because I think we really kind of dug into some things. So I'll probably do a little bit of editing, because I think this was actually some really good info and it helped me a lot. So thank you.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it, John.
All right, my pleasure.
Yeah, take care. Appreciate it.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye, buddy.
All right. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.
Well, I'm glad that you stayed along for this extended interview with Keith. If you'd like to connect with him, you can visit his website. It's 6 Sense Solutions, SIX 6 Sense Solutions.com. If you found this episode valuable, please do us a favor and subscribe to Coffee with John in iTunes and leave an honest rating. If you'd like to listen to previous episodes, visit us at coffeewithjohn.com. That's coffeewithjohn.com. Also, if you have comments, ideas, and topic suggestions, connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. All of the links are at coffeewithjohn.com.
Cause I don't care.